Grade 12, welcome to the last virtual session here in 21st Century Literature from the Philippines and the world. I am Jasper Angeles, your virtual teacher for today's teaching and learning session. Before we proceed, make sure that you have a pen and a paper. Do yourself a favor by jotting down notes while listening. Last meeting, we have read a literary text, specifically an excerpt from a novel that introduces us not only to the life of an immigrant Jew in the time of the Nazi, but also to the rise of the comics in the entertainment industry. What is the title of this literary piece? Please write the title of this novel on the comment box. The novel follows the lives of two Jewish cousins, Czech artist Joe Cavalier and Brooklyn-born writer Sammy Clay, before, during, and after World War II. In the novel, Cavalier and Clay became major figures in the comics industry from its nascency into its golden age. So what is the title of this literary piece, class? If your answer is The Adventures or Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon, you're certainly correct. Again, to just review what we have said last meeting, this novel, through historical biographical approach, tells the life of the Jews in Prague, Czechoslovakia, during World War II. If you were not here last time, please view the previous video for more information. Right now, we'd like to proceed already to the last literary piece that we will discuss for this quarter. But of course, I want to know your thoughts on the following pictures. I will be showing you some pictures, and your task here is to tell me any word related to what is shown in the picture. Let's begin with the first picture. Alright, what do you see here? What word or words would best describe or label the picture on the screen that you can see right now? Write your answer on the comment box, class. Okay, I see several answers, but given that there is a person doing the work for the benefit of others, I believe that you would all agree with me when I say that this picture shows an exemplar of what we call exploitation. As a verb, exploit or to exploit commonly means to selfishly take advantage of someone in order to profit from them or otherwise benefit oneself. Let's have the second picture, shall we? Alright, so what do we see here? Write your answer on the comment box. Of course, some would say tug of war or maybe gender difference. One may say that there is indeed a struggle between two opposing sides. Now, do you think that both sides have a chance of winning this tug of war? Well, yes. It's because there is an equal number of people on both sides. This thought would be different, I think, in the next picture. Let's see the next picture. Alright, do you think that there is a fair fight between those who are on the left side and the one on the right? Exactly. Yes, this is a tug of war, but if it is quite evident that there is power struggle here. How about this last picture? I can see answers like poverty, privilege, and other words related with the economic capability of someone. Economic inequality is the unequal distribution of income and opportunity between different groups in society. It is a concern in almost all countries around the world, and often people are trapped in poverty with little chance to climb up the ladder of the society. Now, I've shown you these pictures, class, in order to lay down the rudimentary blocks for the discussion of the novel in which these issues have been very well evident. Today, class, we aim to deepen our understanding of The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Before anything else, let me remind everyone of the skill that you must by now have already acquired given the number of critical analysis we have done in the previous sessions. Now, let's get back to The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Class, this novel is a series of young adult dystopian novels set in the Hunger Games universe. The first three novels being a trilogy following the teenage protagonist, Katniss Everdeen. The novels in the trilogy are titled The Hunger Games, published in 2008, Catching Fire in 2009, and Mockingjay in 2010. These novels were all turned into films starring Jennifer Lawrence, Josh Hutcherson, and Liam Hemsworth, with the film adaptation of Mockingjay split into two parts. The first two books in the series were both New York Times bestsellers, and Mockingjay topped all US bestseller lists upon its release. Much as I want to divulge what has happened in the novel, I believe that these things will be covered in our discussion later. Speaking of discussion, we will once again use some of the context here, specifically literary and linguistic context to make sense of the text. Now, our knowledge of the literary context will tell us that this novel is indeed a form of fiction. This is the reason why we will be using these elements here to dig into the novel. Also, since this is a novel, there are multiple minor conflicts leading to one major conflict, and that since there are several conflicts, there are also several settings. Before we do the analysis, it is important to note its genre by context. This novel, like Divergent and The Maze Runner, is an example of a dystopian novel. Dystopian literature is a form of speculative fiction that began as a response to utopian literature. A dystopia is an imagined community or society that is dehumanizing and frightening. A dystopia is an antonym of a utopia, which is a perfect society. Dystopia fiction or dystopian fiction offers a vision of the future. Dystopias are societies in cataclysm decline with characters who battle environmental ruin, technological control, and government oppression. Dystopian novels can challenge readers to think differently about current social and political climates, and in some instances can even inspire action. Now, there are 5 characteristics of dystopian fiction, just like what I've said. The central themes of dystopian novels generally fall under these topics. Number 1, government control. 2, environmental destruction. 3, technological control. 4, survival. And 5th, loss of individualism. So, given all of these, what do you think make The Hunger Games a dystopian novel? 1, there's government control over all the affairs of the different districts. They even control everything that is mined in District 12, right? Technological control is very evident in the way government uses cameras and television in order to spread the capital's propaganda. And of course, class, with the annual Hunger Games, wherein youngsters from 12 districts fight to the death, one would be able to see the value of survival by feeding contempt between and among the districts. Now, let's get back to the elements. Class, do not expect that we'd be able to cover the whole series of plots in the novel since the time given is too short for us to cover everything. However, using the excerpt alone, I believe that anyone would be able to see where the other subplots would revolve. In terms of the point of view, with the excerpt, you should have known already that the novel was written in the first-person point of view, in Katniss's point of view to be exact. With this, the analysis will revolve around one setting, characters, and of course, the most important contribution of this literary piece to humanity, its theme. Let's start with the settings. Remember, class, that since this is a novel, there are multiple settings. Now, I believe that if you have really read through the excerpt, you'd be able to comment down the settings that you were able to be transported into in the course of your readings. Okay, so that you have an element of participation, kindly comment the different settings you have encountered in the excerpt. You have 10 seconds, go. What are your answers? With those answers, I believe you have really read through the text. Of course, we begin with Katniss's house, which is in District 12. Class, remember that the setting is as important as the other elements, for this one complements the other literary elements. Say in this case, we have the description of District 12. If we are later to use the Marxist approach, and in here you can see the barbed wires and other forms of control, you can use these in order to support any idea related with the novel showing power struggles. Alright, so aside from this setting, we have the woods, where they, as in Katniss and Gale, get hunts in which they exchange for something to eat. With this setting, you can very well see how economically deprived the characters are in District 12 despite the fact that this district is where the coal comes from. Quite ironic, right? Another setting would be the hub or the black market where Katniss and Gale sold their hunts. Of course, there is the house of Madge and the mayor, which tells us that even in the class of the poor, there would be the less poor. Of course, we have the last setting, which is the square. In our setting, you can think of the square as a place of leisure. In the novel Hunger Games, on the other hand, the square is where the reapings begin and end. This is again another image or setting that the capital uses in order to maintain power. Now let's get to the characters. Can you please write the names of the characters on the comment box? All of them, class. Write the names of the characters that you have encountered in the excerpt. They are more or less the characters you will also encounter in the succeeding novels after Hunger Games. You have 10 seconds to write the names of those characters. Go. Alright, so who are the characters in the excerpt? Can I see your answers? Do we have the same answers? Okay, let's look at my answers. We have Katniss or Catnip or Gale. Katniss is mother. Primrose, the younger sibling of Katniss. Gale, Madge, and her father. Effie Trinket, who is the one who picks on the tribute through draw lots. And Haymitch Abernathy, who was one of those who won the Hunger Games before. Again, these are the characters in the excerpt, but not in the whole novel. When you read the whole novel, you'll be introduced to the other characters. Now, let's proceed with the conflict of the novel. I know that you have several ideas as to the conflict of the novel. Would you mind sharing it with us? You have 10 seconds to write on the comment box what you think is the conflict of the novel. Go! What are your answers? I see some interesting answers here. Some say it's about the reaping and the harshness of the capital. Yes, those are correct answers. However, there is much more than these. To better make us informed of the conflict, we will be using the Marxist approach to literature. What do we look for in a literary text when we use this lens? Let's begin with the concepts of infrastructure and superstructure. Marx called the economic conditions of life the base or infrastructure. This includes everything from technology and raw materials to the social organization of the workplace. Keyword for infrastructure class would be material or everything that satisfies our needs and wants in this world. The economic base has powerful effect on the superstructure or what Marxists termed as for society and the world of ideas. Marx sometimes referred to the superstructure as consciousness, the way we think and look at reality. This only means to say that our view of the world is influenced by how much of the materials, how much of the needs, or how much of our desires are. This is the reason why there are privileged individuals who cannot understand the plight of other people. Since their infrastructure is satisfied, their superstructure are quite different from the ones who do not enjoy much of their infrastructures. The bourgeoisie, or the ones who own the production or infrastructure, would always be different from the proletariat, or the ones who sell labor power. So in Marxism, there would always be power struggle between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. And if our intention is to see how is this evident in the text, we need to look at who exploits and who is exploited. The bourgeoisie would always be the exploiter, while the proletariat will be always the exploited. Class, though we will use Marx's approach to understand the conflict of this novel, note that the whole novel does not totally resemble a Marxist text. Why? It's because in Marx's system, the bourgeoisie would be the private owners. Marxists believe that the production should be owned by the state. Now, in the novel, you know that production is owned by the state, right? But the state itself here in this novel perpetuates the implications of the class system. Anyhow, what we want to see are traces and not the total rendition of the novel as a Marxist text. To prove this thesis that you see here on the screen, again, we will look at who holds power or who is the exploiter and the one who is exploited. Let's begin with the exploiter or the holder of power. Let me read this part for you. Taking the kids from the districts or our districts, forcing them to kill one another while we watch, this is the capital's way of reminding us how totally we are at their mercy. How little chance we stand of surviving another rebellion. Whatever words they use, the real message is clear. Look at how we take your children and sacrifice them, and there's nothing you can do. If you lift a finger, we will destroy every one last of you, just as we did in the District 13. To make it humiliating as well as torturous, the capital requires us to treat the Hunger Games as a festivity, a sporting event, pitting every district against the others. The last tribute alive receives a life of ease back home, and their district will be showered with prizes largely consisting of food. All year, the capital will show the winning district gifts of grain and oil and even delicacies like white sugar, while the rest of us battle starvation. While these portions of the excerpt, or with these portions of the excerpt, who do you think is the one holding power? Write it on the comment box, class. Come on. Who is the one holding the power? Alright, now I see some answers. If your answer is the capital, then you are correct. What powers do they have, or does the capital have? First, they have the power over the people or governance, the power over the goods of the district, the power over thought. Remember, even though Hunger Games is a morbid activity, the capital insists on having this as an occasion in which the people would just follow. And of course, the power over media, in which, or in a way, they televise these things in order to sustain fear and prevent any rebellion. Now, who gets exploited? In this portion of the novel, you'll see how coal miners of District 12 work hard in order to do their job. What is interesting here is the simple word part. What exactly does this our part mean? For starters, you may think that this means that the district is mining coals as their part in something. This one was clarified by Linda Roth 2018 in her paper Parallels between Suzanne Collins's Hunger Games trilogy and Marxist theories about socioeconomic class in ideology. She says that the bourgeoisie are able to maintain its power because of political advantages and therefore has the upper hand in this case. The proletariat is basically the districts, where each district produces one or more resources or items for the capital. In page 80 of Hunger Games, Katniss says, District 11 agriculture, District 4 fishing, District 3 factories. This means coming from District 12, Pita and I will be in some kind of coal miners get up. Marx points out that when humans started to divide labor society, developed into a class society. In the districts, this division of labor exists since all the districts supplies different forms of labor. This division of labor can be seen as a divide and conquer strategy, where the capital divides workers into factions in order to avoid a feeling of a common goal, which could lead to rebellion. In short, the one exploited is not only District 12, but also the other 11 districts from which capital gets everything it needs and wants. A very classic manifestation of power struggle between the upper class and the working class. In the end, class, the conflict became much clearer. This is all about character versus society, if not the very struggle between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. Indeed, this novel does not only appeal to us because of the possibilities of the future, but also because of the traces of capitalism and exploitation that have always been embedded in the society where we live. To better appreciate this novel, I suggest that you read the trilogy or at least watch the 4 films that use this trilogy as basis. I hope that in the course of the whole semester, you were able to take a lot of things that would be necessary not only in your future endeavors, but also in an understanding life itself. This has been your virtual teacher, Jasper Angeles from Super Francisco Memorial National High School, Senior High School, and Pamantasan Lungsod ng Valenzuela. Your virtual teacher for all the episodes of 21st Century Literature from the Philippines and the world. Have a good day, everyone.
Dahil